Go. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وصلوات الله وسلامه على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك يا رب الكريم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Right, folks, so today inshallah I want to try and cover quite a few pages if possible, because last week I didn't really get to do as much as I wanted to, and it was content which is quite easy. I want to get through some of the scenarios where a person comes up to another one who is leading the prayer, and what happens. Can a person who's praying in a masjid, when people come up to him and they want him to change the intention, and in various scenarios of the intention changing while still in the act of the prayer itself, that's what we want to look at. And specifically, I also want to get to this section of something which is I find very interesting. Those examples or those times where it's possible to leave the prayer when you're praying behind an imam, okay? And what happens? On what basis can that happen? So let's have the text then, Shaz. So. We finished in Mumti', we got halfway down 304. We gave 4 different scenarios. That's the last thing that we did, 304. So it will be now وَيَجِبُ نِيَّةُ الْإِمَامِ وَيَجِبُ نِيَّةُ الْإِمَامَ وَالْإِئْتِمَامِ. This is the third line from the bottom in the text of Arabic. وَإِنْ نَوَى الْمُنْفَرِدُ الْإِئْتِمَامِ لَمْ تَصِحْ كَنِيَّةُ إِمَامَتِهِ فَرْضًا وإن انفرد مؤتم بلا عذر بطلت وتبطل الصلاة مأموم ببطلان صلاة إمامه فلا استخلاف. We're not going to get there, so that doesn't matter. Leave that. Come down. It is obligatory. It is obligatory. It is obligatory for the imam to intend to be an imam, and for the follower to intend to be a follower. It is not valid for the one praying alone to decide to become a follower. Just like it is not valid for him to decide to lead an obligatory prayer. Okay? Focus on the obligatory, focus on the person who's praying alone. It is not valid for a follower. Follow again, keep in mind you're in the chapter of the prayer, so we're talking about a person who is being led in salah. Okay? It is not valid for a follower to convert to praying alone without legal excuse. If we can do this, that'll be enough for today. Alright, that's a huge number of pages. Alright, so let's jump straight in. It's obligatory for the imam to intend to be an imam. The jama'ah is an extra addition upon the prayer. The prayer is complete without a jama'ah. So when we say that the jama'ah is obligatory, we do not say the jama'ah is obligatory in the prayer. The salah, Shaykh Uthaymeen makes a grammatical point. He says the jama'ah is obligatory for the prayer, for those people who consider the jama'ah to be an obligation. The Hanabila, we're not coming to this yet because this is actually not the chapter of the congregational prayer. That comes up much later, okay, in the book of Salah proper, yeah. But when we come to that, you'll see that the Hanbalis consider the jama'ah to be an obligation, right? Just quick note on that. Obviously, there are a number of famous hadith. This is knowledge which everyone's aware of. The kind of hadith that if it wasn't for the people in the house, I would have burnt the houses down because they're not going. What's wrong with the people that don't go? If they knew that there was a bone that had meat on it, they would come and they'd run to it and they'd go to the front row. If they knew the khair of the salah, then they'd come crawling. You heard all these hadith. The one who prays the jama'ah in the night time gets the half the night reward. And Shaykh Abdul Ghaffar, Jazakallah khair, very strong on this, keeps reminding us again and again and again how important it is to pray the obligatory prayer. Not the reward, but the legal aspects. I'm not even getting into the social and psychological aspects, because those I think now are actually more important. Okay, so people make a judgment call on what they want to do based upon things that they relate to. Some people say, you know what it is, I'm down on my week in good deeds. I want to go and earn an extra easy 27, so I'll increase my prayer at least. I'll go and see someone. I'll stop along the way. I might visit a sick person. The people tie it in a kind of like a financial transaction. They see as an investment that I need to make some reward. Other people are very legal. They say that this is what I learned. Now I'm not going to miss a prayer. People got different reasons. So I'm saying that sometimes when a teacher is trying to focus on what to reel a people in, okay, what bait to use, debate will change. I'm telling you now that it's not the reward or the legal aspect that people need to attend. Actually, I believe now it's an aqidah issue. I'm seeing so clear proof now in my time that the people who do not attend the jama'ah and are not regular in the masjid, they're all over the place in their deen. All over the place. I don't mean practice. I don't mean diyana. I don't mean religiosity. I mean aqidah. Because they're not around people, they're not around the Quran, they're not listening to the Quran regularly, they lose touch with the Quran, and then they get questions, and when they, people ask things and say things, they just don't have the barakah of being around Muslims, and they suffer. And I mean that very, very socially. But anyway, I didn't want to get into that because that's in the chapter of congregation. What I do want to say though is that the Hanbalis, they consider it to be an obligation. The vast majority of the scholars consider it to be a sunnah mu'akkada, like the Hanafis, like the Shafi'is, or some of the Shafi'is. And then I think I even mentioned that some other scholars, Ibn Taymiyyah, considered it to be an obligation. And then it went to the other extreme where it was not just an obligation, but a condition of the prayer itself. Meaning that the prayer is not valid to be established except if it's done in jama'ah. If you didn't pray in jama'ah, then you can't even pray. That's a ridiculous position, frankly. Okay, but it was a position of the Zahiriyah, those who followed the madhab of Dawood al-Zahiri, okay, the literalists, and Ibn Hazm, who was their most famous follower. So the last position is going to be that it is a recommended sunnah. But I'm saying to you, when we come to that, remove your eyes from the legal position. It's not about whether it's sunnah, recommended sunnah, obligation. Muslims must come. I mean, I've made it clear to a lot of people. I do not consider a person a practicing Muslim unless they pray their jama'ah prayer in the masjid. That's my. Everyone has a. I mean, the word practicing itself means nothing, right? It's an English phrase, right? But when you say practicing, everyone knows what it means. It means that the next level in the game from just a normal Muslim. And so everyone's going to have their own criteria and who they're going to put in that category. For me, it's always been very clear that congregational prayer is a game changer between the one who is considered a practicing Muslim or not. They've taken their level to another, because we all know that from the prayers, Dhuhr is all right, Maghrib is easy, whatever, Isha at home, fine, Fajr is difficult, whether a person's alone or a person never comes to masjid or not. So when a person gets Fajr on lockdown, they see that as a sense of achievement. And I don't want to denigrate that. That is a sense of achievement. But I don't consider, that's for me a person fulfilling obligations. There's no way I'm going to consider a person who's fulfilling his basic obligations of 5 prayers a day to be a practicing Muslim. That's got to be something further. That's what we call in Arabic mutadayyin, someone who is seen as a religious person. And it's not possible, I mean obviously we laugh and joke about it, but it's not possible for a Muslim to not be a religious person. They have to be religiously practicing. And practicing, like I said, has certain core aspects. Their attitude to financial transactions, their reaction in a stress scenario outside, their attending the jama'ah. There are a few things that just, a person who swears, for example, uses very bad language regularly. There are certain few things that you look for that determine whether a person is seen as a practicing Muslim. So, yes. The masjid. I'm talking about jama'ah in the masjid at all times. I don't mean jama'ah at home. Jama'ah at home is something which is done for an excuse because you can't get to the masjid.
I'm talking about working scenario for many people.
Working scenario is something different. Person who is busy in an obligation has his own udhr, own excuse. So the Shaykh Uthaymeen, of course, Hanbali, the kingdom, the madhab of the kingdom of Saudiya, his Hanbali, in general. When it comes to the salah, they got it right. The Saudi Arabia, they got many things wrong in the deen, but when it comes to salah, they got that one right. They do tell the people to close the shops down. They do make it strict. And yes, it's lax in places like Jeddah and Riyadh and whatever, but in certain places of Riyadh, it's like Mecca and Medina, you will see people panicking in the shops. They'll kick you out, even in the middle of a sale. They'll say, we don't care, come back. And that's because they know that there's the what's that called? The religious authorities, they're going around checking and so on and so forth. So that's a good thing. To encourage people to go and pray in the masjid. It's very important. Now, this is being said, this chapter is being taught by Shaykh Uthaymeen from the angle that it is obligatory to go and attend the jama'ah. But when we say that, when we explain it in a book of fiqh like he is, you say that the salah is obligatory to pray in obligation. It's not obligatory to pray to pray in jama'ah for it to be a prayer. I want to make that very clear. People have got to know the difference between the two. That it's obligatory to pray in the masjid versus it's obligatory to pray in jama'ah. Does that make sense? Sure? Yes? We've got to be clear on that. Okay. So, once we've now accepted that, once you've made a differentiation, then you know now the discussion is going to be, do you need to intend something extra? Now that we've known that the condition, that the jama'ah is not part of the prayer itself, it's an additional aspect, then do you need to intend additional aspects of the prayer? And that's what the Hanbalis say. They say, absolutely you must. So for the imam, if he wants to be an imam, he not only does he have to intend the prayer that he's praying, but he has to intend to be an imam as well, a second intention. And for the one who's following, not only does he have to make the intention coming here that he's praying Isha, but he has to make the intention that he's praying behind the imam. And I think the Pak one does that, isn't it? Yeah? It's the imam ka piche, isn't it? Right? They bring that phrase in very intentionally to make it clear that I am a follower. What's the imam's intention?
That's what I was thinking.
I was just
Many
thinking.
man bantam.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
That's exactly what comes from.
You know, I tell you something really amazing about this. You know, we had this whole discussion about the cultural background and why people, all of the people from all over the world, they all have this taught to them as their kids. It doesn't matter if you're an Arab or a Somali or a Pak or a Bengali, you're all taught your version of the niyyah to say it. And we said that's bid'ah. We said it's not needed. We've spent our time on that. I can't remember if there's one that's taught to imams. And if there isn't one that's taught to imams, that goes only to prove 100% my theory. Remember what my theory was? That the spoken niyyah was a tool for the masses, remember? I said it was to aid them and to help them. So if I'm right that the imam has not got a formal phrase that he learns, then he himself then knows better than most that I don't need to say it, because he doesn't. And he leads everyone else, but he tells everyone else this is what you need to say. That just goes to prove my point, that the spoken niyyah is a innovated act brought in with the best of intentions to help people to articulate their mind when it comes to the prayer. And if you're a scholar and an imam, then you know what the heck are you doing? You should know that anyway. You should be in control anyway. There is no verbal. You know, and I know that, you know, the big scholar saying to the small scholar, we both know that there's no intention game here, but just tell the people there is. Or maybe there is one and it's just me, Imam Banto, yani, whatever.
No, but when you hear the
No,
imam,
lose the respect to find out, man.
when you hear the imam in the masjid, often he's saying.
Do you?
No, you hear him say the niyat for the people.
Right.
He'll say it, the niyat for the people, and then he'll crack on with the prayer.
You mean he'll say Allahu Akbar?
No. What I say,
He'll tell the people, yeah.
What I say, it seems like that's him doing his job. That's what he doesn't. You never hear him say, "Oh, Allah," a niyat.
Yeah, no, but I mean, they don't expect. He doesn't. No scholar actually expects the others also to say the niyyah out loud either. But he's telling them because it's random niyyah. It's like an Eid prayer niyyah, you know, because it's a mission, yeah, because it's got takbirs and wajibs and God knows what, yeah. So people need a bit of holding by the hand there. But my point is that I don't think I've ever seen an imam make a niyyah unless it's some Pak who's leading the prayer. Then you see them, you know. They're you know, doing their niyyah, whatever. Then they go Allahu Akbar, and then everyone goes Allahu Akbar. You know he's not the regular imam, right? Anyway, so what does Shaykh and what's their evidence? They said innamal a'malu bin niyat, that every action is by intention. So if you don't intend the action, then you're not going to get the reward. What does Shaykh Uthaymeen say about this Hanbali position? He says, well, what we can say, there's absolutely no doubt that if he doesn't make the intention, then he's not going to get the reward. So definitely he should do it to get the reward, right? Because we've got to separate between 2 points here. To be an imam is a very highly respected, rewarded position. And to be a follower in a jama'ah is a highly rewarded 27 times act. All right? So there's 2 things here. The reward of the position that you are, the follower or the imam, and whether your prayer is valid or not. Whether your prayer as an imam leading the prayer without the intention of being an imam, is that a valid prayer or not? And likewise the follower. So we want to separate between the two. And Shaykh Uthaymeen does that excellently. He goes straight away, he goes, well, let's just agree on one thing. If the imam wants the reward of being an imam, he has to have the intention of being an imam. And if the follower wants the reward of being in this jama'ah, then he has to have the intention of not just Salatul Isha, but I'm a follower as well. Right? So we can agree on that. What we really need to discuss, as Shaykh Uthaymeen says, is لكن هل هو شرط لصحة الصلاة? Is it a condition for the prayer to be valid or not? Okay? Now, the author has made it clear. Absolutely it is. For the prayer to be valid, he has to have that additional niyyah. And if the imam doesn't do that, or the ma'mum, the follower doesn't do that, then فَصَلَاتُهُمَا بَاطِلًا, then their prayer is invalid. Their prayer is invalid. And that is the position of the Hanbalis. However, Shaykh Uthaymeen says, in this issue there's a difference of opinion. I want to explain that as follows. He goes, If we create a number of scenarios, then we can understand the ruling on each individual one. Okay? So the first scenario, As-Suratul Ula. If an imam he intends that he's a follower, and the follower intends that he's an imam, this is scenario number one, then this is not valid, and because the actions of the imam are not the actions of the ma'mum, so both prayers are invalid. So they pray together, but they've got opposite niyyah. All right, the prayer is invalid. We have to go through these ridiculous scenarios, okay? So just be with it. Yeah. The second scenario, both of them intends that they are the imam of the other. Okay? And this is also invalid, because again, it is contradictory. It's not possible to an imam to be at the same time a follower. All right? لا يمكن أن يكون الإمام في نفس الوقت مأموما. الصورة الثالثة, the third scenario, both of them make the intention that they are followers of the other. And that's also, both prayers are invalid, because it's not possible for them to be followers both at the same time. Where's the imam? فأين الإمام? Sheikh said.
The second one,
Yeah, second one.
both imams,
Both imams.
but one is the imam.
How? Who's the imam?
No, let's say there's three people.
It's not three. Don't make it complicated.
Alright.
We're dealing with two people only.
Yeah, but how can they pray one be the imam of the other one? Obviously, someone's going to be saying Allahu Akbar and the other one has to go. So they both just do it at the same time.
Maybe.
Who stood where?
Who stood where? Don't judge that, by the way. I've seen people who are bearded Muslims, which you'd assume person who's knowledgeable at some level of the deen, stand on the left-hand side, thinking that's where you follow, for example. I've been there and I'm having to grab them, and turn them around. So, it happens. It might be hypothetical, but let's just go through the whatever. الرابعة, the fourth scenario. The follower intends he's a follower. The imam does not intend that he's an imam. Okay? This is a very common scenario, by the way. This is the normal scenario that us Paks call the Arab scenario. Okay? Paks would never do this. They'd rather get shot in the head than do this. But they see everyone else doing it and they say, oh, Arabi log, no problem. What is this? This is the scenario when you go to a masjid and you're praying your sunnah by yourself and some random Arab comes and stands next to you and he goes, Allahu Akbar. It has to be an Arab, because a Pak will never ever do that, because the Hanafis don't recognize this at all. Right? And Arabs generally very relaxed on that. That's the cultural expression. The fiqh thing is something quite different. The fiqh thing is actually this scenario. What's happened here is that the imam, who is a munfarid, praying alone, he himself is just praying alone. Sah? He's just praying his sunnah, or maybe he's praying his obligatory prayer, but he wants to be left alone. Sah? And then the next guy comes and he says, this is an opportunity for jama'ah, so just taps him, a little tap on the shoulder, I'm just joining you in the prayer, and then he carries on. Now, two things can happen here. There are a number of things can happen here. We're going to investigate this. That guy just ignores him. That's basically me. I virtually ignore every single person who comes and does that. Teach him a lesson. Right? Don't come and just tap me up and say, disturb my moment, because I'm in my moment. You know what I'm saying? And that's tough. And he wants to, and you know what it is? Obviously, there are people who are stuck in between. There are some people who say, yeah, sure, I'll help you out, and they do all full takbeers with them and everything. I do all the actions and I don't raise my voice a tiny bit. Let's teach them a lesson. And then you got those that, I've seen people who are weak, and they kind of go, Allahu Akbar. Like as if, I'm kind of going to lead you, but I'm not really going to lead you because I'm not even sure what I'm doing right here, yeah? So, that's exactly that scenario. I'm not going to take the intention of the imam, and he's very clearly made the intention, I'm following this imam, whether he likes it or not. He's forcing me to become an imam. I want you to understand that. Okay? It's like a person forcing, I think I told you this riwayah, one of my favorite. We're going to come to this discussion when it comes to jama'ah, but in congregational prayer, if you are in a line, if the line, you come to the masjid and there's only one line, it's full. And there are a number of scholars that consider, of course, the hadith that say that you must not stand alone in a line. That it means that you can't ever stand alone in a line. So you've come late and the line's all full. So now you come and stand. The correct position, you stand alone because you had no choice. But a person, yani for example, there's plenty of space and he stands alone, that's impermissible. You've got to fill the gaps, you've got to fill the front line. So what do people do? Again, not a Pak thing, Arab thing, because Paks would not touch another person in the prayer because they know that's completely haram. Yeah, they don't do that whole thing. But Arabs are easy with that behavior. So what they do, they won't just give you a little tap. They'll pull you back. You know what I'm saying? They'll be like, you come down here, brother, and show some love and join me in a duo so that I'm not praying alone. It's a logical solution to a disaster scenario that they're seeing. Can't pray alone. They don't realize you can completely pray alone, as long as you came late and legitimate, and the gaps are full. And that's, I just want to make, whilst I'm here, that's why the Prophet ﷺ said the best of you are those with the softest shoulders, because when you sense that someone has come, then people should jiggle about and make space, all right, to allow a person to come in. But sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes people, there's chairs involved, and that's another reason why chairs are bid'ah, hardcore. Okay, and we've got to get rid of them before we turn our mosques into churches. Sah? Because that's what it's like now. Pews, isn't it? On one side, pews on the other side. Anyway. So, it's true. Wallahi, we need to remember to sit down again. Yeah, on the floor. Anyway. So, if you can't make space and get someone in, then that person's fine. But as I said, this is a very, very common practice. And it's not new. This used to happen even at the earlier times. And the most famous narration that we have is Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh was, and remember, of course, the other crazy thing is that it's sunnah to stand right behind the imam. When you are the first person in a new line, you don't go to the left, you don't go to the right, you stand behind the imam. Yes? And you build the line. So then right and then left and then right and then left, and you don't go like that. You just keep going like this until a line is formed. Right? But you start here. Now if you start here, who are the people in front of you but the best of the people? Because the Prophet ﷺ said, let the best of you, the most knowledgeable of you, the most senior of you, be close to me. And that's how it always used to be. When the Prophet ﷺ would lead, Abu Bakr behind him, Umar behind him, the big guys behind him. Leadership, fiqh, take over the salah in a problematic scenario, correct the imam with hifz, the big guys. So, it might make sense if you're in some random place and you've got some chamchad behind the imam who don't care, and you're pulling that guy back, but you're now pulling back the big guys. So there was a jama'ah at the time of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu an, and I don't know who's leading Ali, because if someone is leading Ali, then that's something special. Ali was in the first line. And he gets the old tap on the shoulder to come back. So it was a little tug, and it was a movement. Ain't moving. And my man behind obviously doesn't know whether that's he didn't get it, or he's not coming, or whatever it is. So he went for a second round. And then he went for the third round, and Ali in the salah turned around and slapped him right across his face. In the salah. One time, bam. And then went back to his position, took it, and carried on with the salah. Sick guy. You know what I'm saying? Now, a person mustn't be disturbed in their prayer. What's all this business about people coming and I'm praying next to you, I'm doing this? Leave the guy alone. You get what I'm saying? Do you get it? Right. No, that's a whole different game. When a person comes in and he's looking for another person, so he turns around, looks around, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la. That's completely different. That's a person intending to lead, looking for another person, making indication. That person should do more than that, by the way. That's also lazy as well. If I'm that person, I'm going to the wudu area. I always go to the wudu area. And I say, are you praying? Are you leaving? Are you whatever? And then either I wait, or I'll say, okay, I'm going to start, join. Especially like in airports. Right, in airports, I would always go in, look around, I look at the wudu area, I'll wait if I see something happening, look at the time, make a judgment call, or whatever. And also, I want to say something also very important. The rulings, when it comes to jama'ah and their issues, they do differ from location to location. So, for example, one of the reasons why I also have this opinion is because I do not support a second jama'ah in a masjid. This is a classical difference of opinion as well. So the majority allow it, and the minority don't. Some of the companions, Jabir for example, Imam Shafi'i for example, their madhab is that there is no second jama'ah in a masjid. In a masjid, a jami' masjid. Main obvious reasons. You decrease the focus on the jama'ah, you make people lazy, everyone knows that I can come late, there will be someone leading. There's that mentality. That mentality that we used to have when we were at uni, or when we're at the workplace. We can go anytime, we can hook up a jama'ah. That is fine in a uni mosque, in a musalla, in the mall, in the airport, because the culture of that place is that people are doing hundreds of jama'at and it's not really a focus. But in this mosque here, I don't want that. I want people to know that Shaykh Abdul Ghaffar is the only Imam. He must be respected as the Imam. If you're going to come late and think you're going to start, don't even bother coming. That's disrespect to the Imam, disrespect to the institution of the Jama'ah, etc., etc., etc. That's the fiqh behind it. Of course, the majority have the very famous hadith, but we don't want to get into that. So now, when you're adding these things together, then you're establishing another Jama'ah in a masjid, whatever. But where a person is in a musalla or an airport, then that's the expected thing anyway. That would be very unreasonable. Even I would consider it to be very unreasonable that you're praying in a thingy and you go and slap the guy, and that would be bad news. You know what I'm saying?
The people who pull out from the first line.
Yeah.
What's the argument for in terms of how do you justify the line not being complete then? That line's not complete. Then.
It's not complete. It's ridiculous. The whole fiqh behind it is ridiculous. It's created a problem. You've moved that person on a false premise in the first place, a misunderstanding of the hadith. You are not allowed to stand alone intentionally. But when the line is full, you stand alone, no problem. And not only are you standing alone, but there's a high possibility someone else is going to come and you won't be standing alone anyway. I mean, there's no basis for it whatsoever. Plus what you just said, you're creating a whole issue, a gap, and everyone is going to have to move. A whole line is going to have to move. Either everyone's going to have to move in, or everyone's going to have to take a step. The step is not the issue, it's the headache that you're creating. Yeah? Because there could be a legitimate reason for people all moving as well. That's not the main issue. The main issue is the fact that they've misapplied the hadith in the first place. Yeah? So, in this scenario number 4, the Imam is not interested, the guy has the intention to lead, to follow though. What happens here? Shaykh says, the follower's salah is not, it's not Shaykh said, sorry, the author, the Hanbalis, in this position, okay, they said that the follower's prayer is invalid and the guy who was the Imam is valid because he hasn't changed anything, he's carried on as he is, he hasn't done nothing. But the guy who made the intention that I'm a follower, who is he following? Because he's got no Imam. So his prayer is invalid according to the author. So, and that's the position of the madhab. And Shaykh Uthaymeen makes a nice point at the bottom of 305. You have it? What does he say? What's he trying to say of that last line? What does that mean? وَهُوَ مِن, penultimate, 3 lines up from the bottom. Yeah? What does that mean? Yeah, what does that mean? كَمَا فِي الْإِنصَافِ. What does that mean? What do you think that means? Who else has a text in front of them? Or Maysa, if you've got the Arabic there, or anyone online. Rayhan, what does that mean? What do you think? What does it mean? Huh? Yeah, but what does that sentence mean? What does the sentence... Okay, مثال, he gives an example of a person who does this, and he says that the Imam's prayer is going to be okay, but the one who comes afterwards, his prayer is not going to be valid because he didn't even have an Imam to lead him, so how is he a follower? This is the position of the madhab. هذا المذهب وهو من المفردات كما هو في الإنصاف. Okay, what does that mean? Linguistically it's easy, but what does that phrase mean? 305. Only 10 more seconds. I don't want to waste too long. I just want to make sure that you're just sharp on your phrases of fiqh. Guess. Nope. Guess.
That is the only opinion.
Oh, what does that mean? Only opinion?
That there's no different opinions.
Nope. Anyone else?
Referring to the book, or it's saying that to the whole of justice?
Nope. Correct. Well done, Baisa. It is one of the positions unique to the madhab. Well done. Okay, that's exactly what it means. That there are certain things, remember we said in fiqh, that is only held by certain scholars or certain schools. The others all disagree. And normally, fiqh is very, very flexible. You'll always have some support. You'll always have one of the imams in the Maliki madhab, or even the Maliki madhab with you, or whatever. So one of the famous mufradat of the Hanbali madhab is the what? Yeah, what? Give me an example of one of them, famous one. We've covered, I think, 3 or 4. Wudu. Which one? Bismillah. Another one. Having to say Bismillah in wudu. Another one. The most famous one. The one that we don't apply when we go Umrah and we go to Babel and eat camel burgers, as I do with my group every time. wudu after the camel meat. Okay, that's from the mufradat of the madhab as well. Okay, so this is another mufradat. This is a unique position. Min al mufradat, this phrase is important. You'll see that phrase used with all the madahib. When you're reviewing all the madahib, we'll come across a Hanafi position. We'll say this is هذا من mufradat al-ahnaf. This is from the unique positions of the Hanafi school in deference to all of the other schools. Okay. Anyway, just want you to know that. And the clue is Insaf. Insaf yani itself is of course the key reference book yani of the Hanbalis, and it really follows. It shows a lot of the Hanbali positions themselves. The second position in this.
So Sheikh, the unique position for them.
Yes.
Like, a person who's following.
Yes.
His salah is batil.
Batil. Yes. Batil. Okay. Batil means that the niyyah was not there and you have to pray again. Batil. Okay. So it's heavy bars that. That's heavy bars. All right. So the second position is that it is actually correct for that person to, not correct, valid, for that person to follow another one. Does that make sense? Even though the other imam did not have the intention to be an imam and this one had the intention of being a ma'mum, his prayer is still valid. Is that clear? And this is also noted in Al-Insaf. And what did they base this upon? What did they base this upon? Anyone want to have a shout before I tell them the hadith? No? Of why it would be valid for a person who wanted to be a follower for their prayer to be valid even if the imam didn't intend to be an imam. Yeah.
And Abu Bakr was leading.
Yeah.
He saw the Prophet.
But he was leading.
Yeah, but okay. But then the Prophet.
We're saying a person who does not make intention to lead, and the one who follows wants to be a follower.
Came with the intention, didn't he, to follow Abu Bakr?
Yeah, but I'm saying Abu Bakr was leading. Abu Bakr was the imam of the jama'ah.
But then what happened when the Prophet joined to follow Abu Bakr? Abu Bakr stepped back and then he followed.
That's not correct, and that's going to come later. But it's not what we're talking about now. We are talking about a person who has no intention to lead, not leading.
Okay.
And then a second person comes and stands behind them, and they have the intention to follow.
Is it from a sadaqah point of view that even if they don't intend to be the imam, their reward will it's a mercy that their reward will increase?
Nice thinking. Good.
What about the hadith of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, when he did the 3 acts, Rasulullah, because he didn't intend it, and Rasulullah told him that you get a reward for this.
That's going to come as well in a minute. We'll get that in a minute. The main hadith that you should be thinking of is the hadith of Ramadan. The Prophet ﷺ, of course, you know the concept of Qiyamul Layl, okay? Qiyamul Layl and the concept of Taraweeh, this congregational prayer, it was legislated in a very unique fashion, okay? The Prophet ﷺ, when he came out in Ramadan on one particular night, and he was praying by himself, فَاجْتَمَعَ إِلَيْهِ نَاسٌ فَصَلُّوا مَعَهُ. So the people, they saw him and they all gathered around him and they followed him in the prayer. He did not intend to lead the people in Qiyamul Layl in Ramadan. Do you know what I'm saying? He had not intended that. He was praying by himself. All the companions prayed behind him. Their prayer was fine. The Prophet ﷺ did not say to them afterwards that what did you do, blah, blah, nothing. Okay? وَلَمْ يَكُنْ قَدْ عَلِمَ بِهِمْ. He did not and was not aware of them coming or being part of the game or whatever. But he carried on. ثُمَّ صَلَّ فِي الثَّانِيَ وَالثَّالِثَ. On the second night he did the same. On the third night he did the same. And as in the hadith in Bukhari, what happened on the fourth night? He didn't come out. Why did he not come out? He came out the night after and he said, I didn't want to make this an obligation upon you. Very good hadith, very clear evidence. This hadith proves to us a number of things. Number one, Qiyamul Layl is a sunnah, not an obligation when it comes to Ramadan. Okay, we make that point all the time, isn't it? We see all the masses come out for Taraweeh prayer. We're saying to them, why is it that you show so much love for a sunnah prayer? You don't come to the obligatory prayer, even in Ramadan, let alone outside. And that's one of the evidences that shows that sunnah, it is a sunnah. He himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, I didn't want to make it obligatory upon you. So it's not obligatory, all right? But the real evidence for us here is the fact that everyone came and prayed behind the imam without the Prophet ﷺ intending to be an imam. Get it? And their prayer is all authentic, valid, and no one's mentioned anything. And this is the position of Imam Malik. Okay, this was his primary istidlal, and Shaykh Uthaymeen says, وَهُوَ أَصَحْ. And that is the correct position in the matter. and this is the class position as well. And this is the position actually of the majority of scholars today now, okay? In general, that a person has achieved this. And Sheikh says, ولأن المقصود هو المتابعة وقد حصلت وفي هذه الحال يكون المأموم ثواب للجماعة ولا يكون الإمام. He says, listen, ultimately, this person is not like he wants to change the prayer or anything. He just wants to follow another guy in the prayer. He wants the reward of the Jama'ah, and he will get that reward. Okay? But the Imam is going to get nothing. He said the Imam is going to get nothing because the Imam did not intend to lead the prayer. So how can he then suddenly get the reward? Okay? So لأن المأموم نوى فكان له ما نوى والإمام لم ينوي فلا يحصل له ما لم ينوي. So the follower will get what he intended, and the guy who was leading, he didn't get what he intended because he didn't get the reward of the Imam because he never intended being an Imam. End of story. The fifth scenario, السورة الخامسة أن ينوي الإمام دون المأموم. So the Imam intends to be an Imam, but the guy behind doesn't intend to be a follower. Okay? Like a person جاء إلى جنب رجل وكبر فظن الأول أنه يريد أن يأتم به. Classic scenario. Man's praying by himself, probably a tight masjid, not much space. Guy comes, stands right next to him because there's no space. He's praying by himself. He goes, Allahu Akbar. My man then thinks, oh, Johnny here wants to lead, wants to pray with me. So because he's standing next to him, so he carries on the whole prayer, whatever. And maybe this guy is thereabouts in the movements as well. Let's just make it easy and say that he's kind of, timing it the same. So the whole prayer he carries on thinking he was an Imam. And this one, he either didn't even bother noticing, or he was like, oh, that's a bit weird. We were just doing everything at the same time. You get what I'm saying? So we got two scenarios there. So what happens? فهنا لا يحصل ثواب الجماعة لا للإمام ولا للمأموم. He goes, in this scenario, none of them get any reward. Okay? Technically.
Not accepted, you mean?
No, reward.
Oh, right, okay.
Reward. Okay? So that's why we're giving the fifth scenario. This is now not about acceptance. Okay? So this, the first one, he didn't get Imam position, did nothing. Yes? And the other guy, he didn't intend to be a follower in a Jama'ah anyway, so he doesn't get a reward either. ولو قال قائل بحصول الثواب للإمام في هذه السورة لم يكن بعيدا. He goes, but you know what, if someone was to say, hey man, surely this Imam should get something for his efforts. So Shaykh Uthaymeen says, you know what, to be honest, that's not thingy, it's not out of the question. Correct. It's not far, in Arabic means not far away. It's not out of the question. There's a good chance of that. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, every action is by its intention and everyone will get what they intended. And the guy got intended, he wanted the reward. He was being a nice guy. Sah? When he goes, oh, okay, you can buddy up with me. Yeah, so it just didn't work out. A very important point, if you go back to the translation, it says there very clearly, Sah, that it is the niyyah of an Imam. ويجب نية الإمامة والإئتمام وكلام المؤلف يقتضي أنه لا يصح. The Sheikh is saying that in all of these scenarios, according to the Hanbalis, none of the prayer is valid in either of them. But what we've seen is that the prayer is valid in the final two or three. The final two. Correct. Good. Yep. In these 5 scenarios. Alright? There is now one وقد سبق بأن الصحيح في ذلك. And there's 2 of them that are correct. So I want you to know 5 of them scenarios we gave. The first 3 invalid for everyone. The last 2 invalid prayers for both of them. We have a 6th scenario. أن يتابعه دون نية وهذا لا يحصل بها ثواب الجماعة لمن لم ينويها وصورة. This is a crazy one as well, to be honest. Alright? This is when a person follows another one without any intention. So there's a guy who's praying, or an Imam who's praying, and someone then follows them without an intention. He goes, this is going to not be about the reward, because he didn't even intend to pray behind him, so he's not getting any reward. But it is possible, and it does happen, and I've seen this happen. Okay? This is, for example, when a person prays behind a person that is not correct to pray behind. Okay? So, yeah, so not new Muslim, but someone who's non-Muslim, for example, or someone who does not have wudu, or someone who has no ghusl, or he does it out of shame, or trying to blag it. That's the most common scenario. People, yani, just trying to make it clear to other people that I'm praying. Kids, yani, mashallah, very good at this. So they just stand, yani, they have no actual intention, right? But they just want to make it clear that, oh, you know, I went with the jama'ah, whatever, whatnot. Like, yani, every pack kid you've seen in Taraweeh. They leg it out after second rak'ah. They come back around 18th if they've timed it right? And then they've timed it right. It's like, yeah, Nadim's like, I'm better. So they get back for 18th, 19th. And the way they leg it into the prayer, there's no intention for the jama'ah or anything like that. It's like, just quickly leg it in, just stand there, make it look like I've been praying here all this time. Yeah, that's what Shaykh says, out of shame. Haya'an, yani, they do it. Okay? Or for example, an adult, normal person, but he's coming to the masjid and he's standing in the line. I tell you, I've seen this. Meaning, person came and admitted to me afterwards, okay, that they realize at that moment that they've not got wudu. But they know that if they now, even the prayer's not started, by the way, but it's like the final stage. If we're about to say Allah Akbar, the iqamah is going, lines are all solid, slow iqamah, so there's no, like, you know, mistaking. Everyone knows that everyone's getting ready. If a person now leaves that line, the only reason they're leaving that line is because he doesn't have wudu, and everyone knows it. And people don't like to others to know that, because there's always the possibility that, you know, the obvious thing that he didn't make wudu is not the obvious interpretation. You're making the thing that he just passed wind or something right there and then. You know what I'm saying? You're going for the worst possible interpretation, and he's assuming the worst possible interpretation, even though he's just miskeen, forgot to make wudu. You know what I'm saying? So what do people do? They go Allahu Akbar, they join. They don't want the basi to be done. So they will pray that prayer behind the imam without any intention of being follower, without even having an authentic prayer. And that happens. Now that's the scenario that is being described in scenario 6, because technically it exists. I just want to add that this is completely haram as well. Alright? Regardless of the fact about the validity of the prayer, the act is a major sin. It is completely impermissible to pray when you know that you are not fulfilling the conditions. Like, it's haram. It's playing around with the deen. Alright? Okay? So, right. So this is the first part of moving different varying intentions, and intentions moving around and so on. Beg pardon. The author is now going to talk about various changes in intention. Okay? So, the first one. وَإِنْ نَوَى الْمُنْفَرِدُ الْإِئْتِمَامِ لَمْ تَصِحْ. If a person who's praying by himself suddenly intends to become a follower, the prayer is not valid. The prayer is not valid. For example, a person starts his prayer by himself, and then a jama'ah arrives, okay, and they pray in jama'ah, and so he then changes his intention from praying alone to following the imam who has just arrived. His prayer is invalid. Does that make sense? According to the Hanbalis. So you're in the masjid, and it might be a good deal, you're praying in the front line, okay? This actually happens a lot in airports, to be honest, because you're in the front, and when, you know, it empties out and a group of people come, they will go to the front as well, isn't it? And they would pray around you. So they would just line up to you, whatever, whatnot. Here, you can't, according to them, you can't just suddenly change from my intention of praying alone to now I'm with this masjid, now I'm with the imam. Okay? That's according to, let me just finish that. So, لِأَنَّهُ, because he has made an intention to be a follower in the middle of the prayer. In the middle of the prayer, and we know that intention has to be done at the very latest when? مع تحريمة, right with the Allahu Akbar, at the very latest, either a little bit before, at the very latest with the takbir. Once you've started, you can't change the intention, okay, according to this position, because the niyyah فَتَبَعَضَتْ النِّيَّةِ, the niyyah has become now in portions, parts. It's now been divided, become into portions. And for the first time around, you were praying alone, and then the second phase, you've now, you've become like a follower, and your second phase, I'm like, I'm offside rule now, yeah? So your prayer has become invalidated. Just like a person who would change from praying dhuhr to asr, or asr, and then he realized I haven't prayed dhuhr, and then he says, let me make this intention of dhuhr. We covered that last week, isn't it? Invalid. Sah? Happy with that, yes? Alright, this is position of the Hanbali madhab. The second statement, or the second opinion in this issue, it is valid. And this is an actual riwayah from Imam Ahmad himself. There is a narration from Imam Ahmad that he allows this. So the one that becomes like the one who's praying alone, al-munfarid, he makes intention for al-i'timam, he makes intention for following, it will be accepted. Why? Because al-ikhtilaf huna fi sifatin min sifat al-niyya. Yani the difference is not a fundamental difference. It's not like I'm changing from dhuhr to asr, or asr to this, or from, I don't know, whatever. This is just a difference in the attribute, in the expression. I wrote actually, I thought about how to translate this. It's not a change in the niyyah, but rather an expression of that niyyah. Does it make sense? Yeah? It's not a change in the actual intention of what you wanted to do. It's rather a change in the expression of what you intended to do. You still wanted to pray that prayer, but you want to now, instead of expressing it alone, you want to express it as part of a jama'ah that has just occurred. Does that make sense? That is the statement of Imam Ahmad. Okay? It is not a change in the actual niyyah itself, therefore it is permissible. وَهَذَا هُوَ الصَّحِيحِ. That's the position of Shaykh Uthaymeen that he adopts. It's also our class position as well. And there are a number of evidences for this that we want to discuss in detail. It's a very good discussion. Yes?
Yeah, but would that only work if you were in the first rak'ah? Because obviously if you're in like the third rak'ah. Excellent question. He's going to ask that exact question in exactly 1 minute. He's going to ask that. What's the evidence, first of all, for this? The evidence for this that is going to be used is that it has been established in the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the validity of a person changing from being a person praying alone to a person becoming a imam, as we're going to come and discuss. I'll tell you straight away. It's a hadith of Ibn Abbas. Everyone knows it's hadith. Prophet ﷺ was praying tahajjud prayer by himself alone, and then Abdullah ibn Abbas woke up and he joined him. You know the famous hadith? Stood by his left hand side because he didn't know where to stand. See, people don't know, okay? And the Prophet ﷺ in the prayer took him by the ear and he moved him around to the right hand side and carried on. Imam Muhammad ﷺ praying alone changed his intention to become an imam in the middle of the prayer. Correct? Nothing changed afterwards, whatever, whatnot. That's the hadith they're referring to. Obviously, we've got some problems. This was a nafil prayer. Yes? This is and that was a jama'ah. The one that we're talking about scenario is a jama'ah fard. The evidence is in a nafil. Correct? What's the other problem? That's not the problem. That is a different scenario. We're talking about a person praying alone becoming a follower. In that example, it was a person praying alone becoming a imam. So there's going to be some criticism that's going to come. But anyway, we're comfortable with it. We're going to defend it in a second. But that's the evidence we're going to use. Okay? So, So basically this hadith indicates that these little changes, they do not affect the actual niyyah. Whether you suddenly become an imam or become a follower, it doesn't actually affect the original niyyah. فكما يصح الانتقال من انفراد إلى إمام إلى إمامة يصح الانتقال من انفراد إلى ائتمام ولا فرق. He goes, and if it is possible for a person praying alone to suddenly change and become an imam, then you know what? There's no reason why it's not possible, which is a much more senior position, serious position, bigger position. Then why would there be a problem with a person who's praying alone to become a follower? Yeah? So that's that part that's being dealt with. We've still got to deal with the other issue in a minute. Okay? ولا فرق. غاية ما هنالك أنه في السورة الأولى صار إماما وفي السورة الثانية صار مؤتما. Anyway, now as has been mentioned, what if someone says, according to the position that this is actually okay to do, which is our position, a person has already prayed some of his prayer. Okay? So, you're praying dhuhr in the jama'ah. You've prayed 2 rak'ah already by yourself. Then the people come in to pray. What are they going to pray? How many rak'ah? 4. What are we arguing? We're arguing that this guy is allowed to change his intention from a singular to a follower. If he does that, what will he end up praying? 6. Is it permissible to pray 6 rak'ah for dhuhr? No. So, Shaykh says, what if someone now says to you that, okay, what are you going to do?
Would he sit on the second rak'ah and wait?
So, that's all the kind of, behavior we're going to have to get involved with. If you allow this kind of behavior, let me read out to you word for word what Shaykh Uthaymeen says. Then let's see what you think about that. He says, الجواب يجلس ولا يتابع الإمام. Now this is difficult. I'll be honest with you, I'm not even sure which one he's going for here. But this is my interpretation. I'm going to translate it and you see what you think he's trying to say. He will sit. Now sit, yajlis, by the way, does not just mean, it means jalasa means sit. But yajlis also means he remains. He stops. He doesn't get involved. When we just say you sit right there, it's a phrase, isn't it? Colloquial phrase that you just calm your beans. You just stay where you are. That's what it means, isn't it? Yeah. So either that's what he means, or he means he physically sits. But I'm going to explain that. But he does not follow the imam. Because if he was to follow the imam, it would become necessary then, or it would lead to him praying 6, and that is not permissible. So he sits فيجلس وينتظر الإمام ويسلم معه وإن شاء نوى الانفراد وسلم فهو بالخيار. So Shaykh is explaining 2 different options. He's saying that he's got both options open to him. And it's not immediately clear what the 2 options are. But I think what he's trying to say is that either, in my mind, he ignores him, which is exactly what I would do, and it's my class position, that he ignores. That the situation is messy. It's going to involve something which is going to be out of the ordinary. And so, you know what? You just carry on with your prayer and end of. Okay? Or he carries on where he is and sits and doesn't follow the imam. And he waits. Like what we have in Salatul, which prayer do we have this in? Salatul Khawf. In the fear prayer, in the time of war. And he waits for the imam to catch up. And he does not give salams until the imam gives salams, and he gives the salam of the imam. So what he's done here is that he's kind of piggybacked onto the jama'ah, and he's kind of ignored their internal structure, but he's given salam with them at the end. And that's the position of Shaykh Uthaymeen. He's saying that he can do that, or he can just carry on. I have to say I'm not comfortable with that, even though, frankly, we do have some evidence from the Sunnah that it's possible for a scenario where people, but that's a very specific scenario, right? The whole idea is that when the imam is in a situation of war and the enemy's in front, and we can't allow the situation to be where everyone's praying at the same time, we need the guys to defend us. So we leave those guys there, and the first group goes and pray with the imam. The imam prays, if it's a 2 rak'ah prayer, it will be, and the imam will pray the first rak'ah, and the other will all pray the first rak'ah together. And then I'll stand up, and I'm just going to be quiet now. The imam, I'll just stand and I'll wait. And these guys behind me, they will finish off that second rak'ah by themselves. They read Fatiha, read the surah, do ruku', sujood, salam, and they'll go. I'm still standing. Then the second lot will come, and they will then stand behind me. Once I know that they're now started, Allah Akbar, I can hear them, I now start my Fatiha, my second rak'ah. And these guys behind me, what they will do is that they will join me with the whole thing. But when I sit down for tashahhud, they will all stand up, complete their second rak'ah. And me, I will wait for them. And then when we're all sitting down, I've given them 5 minutes, and we're all sitting in tashahhud, I will give salam, they will give salam for me. So the first group started with me, the second group ended with me. They both catch the jama'ah. That's one of the authentic versions of Salatul Khawf. Right? So it's almost like he's kind of taken a little bit from there, the idea that you could join an imam for a salam even though you didn't join him at the right time. But I'm going to say I'm not comfortable with that. My point is that, you're creating a situation. You're kind of using that as an example, but it's not the same scenario in principle. The Prophet ﷺ clearly said, جُعِلَ الْإِمَامُ يُتَمَّ بِهِ. The Imam has been placed to be followed. You're not following him in structure or anything. This is going to come up again in a minute. And it's not necessary. That's the whole point here. That you are praying by yourself. It's not obligatory for you to, to change. If you want, wallah, for me, much better that you break your prayer and start again with the new. And that's something which is permissible. That's something which is permissible. A person just break off that prayer, say, right, end of to that prayer, and join with this one, and that fulfills all conditions. Remember, we said you're not allowed to break an obligatory prayer just for the sake of, whatever, unless it's a really compelling reason or you're moving to something better. This would be something better, and that's it. Is that clear, everybody? Yeah? So it's not it's not clear, actually. It's a difficult situation, but that's the class position. But I want you to be aware of Shaykh Uthaymeen. He himself is also saying, you're up to you, what do you want to do? So even he's not throwing his hat into one ring.
Does anyone else mention that you can leave the prayer before the Imam?
Yes.
I've only heard like Shaykh Uthaymeen or people speaking on his behalf.
Leaving from this scenario here, you mean?
Any scenario at all.
So in this scenario, has he left the prayer? How is that applicable here? Because what you're saying is going to come up in a page or two, but I'm just trying to understand how you understood that from this.
You said one of his options is that he leaves the prayer and then he just waits for them to finish.
No, he leaves the prayer because he's not joined them. There's two scenarios here. I think that's what I said. Unless I said something different. Yeah, I said either he continues with his own salah, and then he gives salams when he wants, he leaves when he wants, he's praying by himself, That's fine.
He's with them now.
Now the second scenario is that he carries on with them and he sits down when his four are done.
He's not following the Imam.
So he's now not following the Imam. That's my problem.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
I've never heard anyone say this.
So
Except for people speaking on behalf of
yeah, actually, yeah, it is odd. And this is not the odd version because this is quite rare. There's a much more common version, and that's when a person comes to pray Maghrib behind. Yeah, and that's going to come. And we're going to discuss it we're going to discuss it now.
I don't think any madhab.
No, it is. You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised.
I think in any
And you should get told off. I'm very much against this opinion. But it has Ibn Taymiyyah behind it. It has some names. Let's look. We'll cover it. Cover it in a few minutes. Yeah.
Clarity, the other scenario is that you carry on your prayer and you just wait until they get to they're about to give their salam and just do a salam.
That's my understanding of what this text says.
Yeah.
It's not clear. It's not clear. It's that it doesn't explain it very well, to be honest.
In one scenario, you've got that where you join them and then you're sitting and they're continuing their prayer.
Yep.
It's causing huge disruption for everyone.
Yep.
What's he doing?
What's he doing?
Is he okay?
I'm not down with that behavior.
And whereas the other scenario you're saying is that you continue your prayer,
Yep.
but don't exit your prayer until they exit their prayer.
No.
Okay, no.
Because how are you going to do the second one without being the same as the first? In fact, you've just described the same.
No, you carry on your prayer,
Yeah?
or you can't beat them.
Yeah.
That's-
Yeah. It's the same. The only two scenarios that can be is a person who carries on nothing to do with them,
yeah.
or he is with them.
No, but okay, so let's just say you're
Unless, and like I said, I'm telling you now, I'm making a judgment call myself from the translation. Unless you can see another interpretation of what he's saying.
so if you're on your third rakat, you stop,
Whilst you're praying alone,
while you're praying around,
Yeah.
you stop there, and so they're now
you stop there in whilst praying alone.
yeah, on your third
Right?
rakat. Now they've started their salah, yeah, and they get to your third rakat, and you now joined with them. Now you're on the same power as them.
You've still broken it.
You've not broken. You stopped it.
In fact, that what you just said is exactly what he says.
yeah.
So what Bob just said, he goes that he's prayed two. He's prayed two. All right? Actually, that I think what Bob just said is what he's saying. يجلس ولا يتابع الإمام. All right, what does that mean? So now we're going to assume this guy's prayed 2 rak'ah by himself. So dhuhr again. He's prayed 2 rak'ah dhuhr. He hasn't actually stood up for the third. He hasn't stood up. But he's done 2 rak'ah. He's in At-Tahiyyatu Lillah. And he's seen all the people now gathered together. Allahu Akbar. And now he's thinking, okay, I've got a bonus here. I've got an opportunity to join this jama'ah. Right? He says, Sheikh says, this is how it could be interpreted. He sits and he doesn't follow the Imam, because if he was to follow the Imam, then he's going to end up praying 6, and that's not permissible. So he sits and he waits for the Imam and he gives salams with him. That's basically what you just said.
So it'd be that third scenario where you pause your prayer effectively.
You pause your prayer,
Wait for them to catch
wait
you,
for them to
and then
catch
join
you,
them.
and then you join them. What did I say then?
You didn't mention that. You said there was what, two
You said you
positions.
prayed
I think you said
before.
you carry on
Sits in the
wait
class
until-
and just
wait
waits
back
there
there.
until they.
So what's the actual difference between the two?
Because when he says
The pause here is that he's now.
The pause is only because he wants them to. The pause, it's impossible that Sheikh Uthaymeen is saying that this guy ends up praying 2 and they end up praying 4. That's impossible. The pause here is to make sure the numbers match up.
Correct.
by the fact that he says
So then there's no difference between what you said and what I said.
you said before fourth rak'ah,
Yep.
you pause at the end until he comes to, which is why he suggested this.
So basically, you finish it.
So explain to me, one of you, explain to me my scenario so that I'm clear.
So you said.
So we thought that you meant that once the Jama'ah has begun,
Once the Jama'ah has begun there, and I've prayed 2,
and then you carry on reading your two, but you do not give salam until the Imam gives salam.
right.
But
So you,
we,
So I'm saying, and that's exactly what I did say.
yeah,
So meaning, I will stand up
yeah,
because the Imams come in, and now is his first 2, and my 3rd and 4th,
yeah,
and now at 3rd and 4th, I'm gonna stay seated,
yeah,
and they get back up for 2,
yeah.
okay, and I'm gonna wait, and then I'm gonna give salams.
Isn't it better?
That's what I did say.
Yes.
Now, Bob said, you stay and you stay seated. I'm saying, how's that gonna be possible?
Because you've not started with them yet.
Okay.
You're sitting
Yep.
in your own prayer.
And wait, let them pray 2 rak'ah.
Let them pray 2 rak'ah.
Okay, and then you're going to stand up with them. But that's my point. You're still going to have to join them for some part of the prayer. So all we've done is change the order of which way you did done. Yeah.
That's all.
Huh? Yeah. So yeah. So correct. So correct. So this is the same. Well, Bob, it's the same because what was the difference? The difference was that I stood up for the first 2 in my scenario, and in the second scenario I stood up for the second 2. But I didn't do salam without the imam.
Well, no, the difference is you stop following the imam.
In both of them.
No, in the first scenario, you never even started following the imam. Aslan, you were just sitting there waiting.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then I'm going to stand up with him, aren't I?
So, okay, you join him in his third.
Yeah.
in his first.
So I'm going to, yeah.
And then as soon as you join him,
Yep.
you keep doing what he does.
Correct.
And you never disobey what he does.
Yeah. But what was I doing in the for the first 2 rak'ah?
Well, no, you're in your own prayer. You've not joined them yet.
No, I have. I tell you why I have.
Because you're waiting.
Yeah.
But isn't it better?
Otherwise, it'd be mental. I'd stand up and pray my own thingy. But the fact that I decide to stay seated means that I started there.
Seated in your own.
Huh?
You're allowed to stay seated in your own. And it's less disruptive in a sense.
No. Let's forget disruption, whatever, whatnot. Let's just clarify. To my mind, the 2 scenarios that we've just described are the same thing, but just different positioning.
No, your intention is you want to join him in his third. You've not actually joined him yet.
Yes.
You're saying I'm going to join him
Yep.
once he reaches my stage.
Okay. And for 2 whole rak'ah,
You're sitting there.
I'm gonna have to wait, which is not permissible.
Which is joining.
Which is definitely joint, because waiting here is a decision that has only been taken because you joined the prayer.
Yes.
Because if you hadn't, you'd stand up and pray your 2 rak'ah. Do you get what I'm saying? I can tell you now, by the way, it's not permissible for a person just to stay seated in the prayer doing nothing. It's not permissible. Like straight up not permissible.
Because you're staying in sujood doing nothing.
Not even sujood, not even ruku', not in any position. It's not permissible to change any aspect of the prayer outside of its natural boundaries. The Prophet ﷺ would make everything in qadar.
The hadith where the Prophet was in sujood until they thought he was dead.
All interpreted that everything was yani, in a long time period. His first one was like that as well. His ruku' was like that as well.
So you
There's
changed its rhythm. It's already
yeah, correct. Yani, the rhythm can change as long as everything's maintained the same. So if you're going to do a long prayer, everything is long. If you're going to do short, everything is short. You shouldn't do, and a little bit of variance is okay, but not significant ones, because sitting in tashahhud for 2 full rak'ah is a significant change. But anyway, we're moving out of something. I don't want to get into all of that because that's for later, huh? You can't even pause.
No, you can't pause and wait for them to catch up.
Yeah,
Because you're significantly changing the prayer.
You are significantly changing the prayer, and that's why I said that Sheikh Uthaymeen is like, if you want to do that, fine, and if not, then just carry on with your own prayer and just move out. I'm saying for me, whether you join first 2 or the other 2, this whole sitting around thing is weird. Like you said that if a person is comes and he prays, you said yeah, and then suddenly sits down, everyone's going to be freaking out. So what the hell's going on? It's not a million miles different from the people who are seeing this guy just sitting there, not ending the prayer, not beginning the prayer, not moving the prayer. They're thinking, what's he doing? And then suddenly he joins us for the last two. They're going to be freaked out the same. Less so, but it's still freaked out. Yeah? So that's why I reckon Allah knows best that a person carries on his own prayer. And that's certainly what I would be doing, will be doing, would only ever think of doing.
Obviously, the key point being that if you go one rakat into your salah,
Yes.
1 unit into your
Correct. Now, let's just say ideal scenario, you've just said Allahu Akbar, you're still in Fatiha, and bonus they all arrive. Job's an easy one, isn't it? You just, you're in Fatiha anyway, you just join them, and no one knows any different, and you get your full prayer in, and bam. Yeah.
Question: what if you're on the side and they're at the front?
Yeah, so that's a really good one, right? What about if there's a significant difference in space and line? You know what I'm saying? Yeah? What do? I'm sure the Shaykh mentioned. No, he didn't. Okay, he didn't. But I want to say that I remember studying this many years ago, and the scholars have different statements. I want to say to you that this, I think, would be a valid prayer. Meaning you stay where you are. You wouldn't be doing the whole kind of, madkhali kind of walk 6 miles whilst you're praying. You know what I'm saying? What are you heading for, bro? What are you heading madkhali for? Astaghfirullah al-Azim. Look at that guy. Nazif's whole Javani came out there. The whole Disbury Masjid pain just came out in all one move. Anyway, that's Ambrose Tales, that is. Ambrose record. Anyway, God. You would not walk in the prayer that far. Okay? You'd stay where you are. And I tell you why, because a number of scholars, they consider that the line, and it's not right position, but they consider the jama'ah to be okay if you can see the back line. Alright? The actual position is that it should be continuous. But whenever you have a fiqh difference and you go upon an accepted opinion that's khilaf, then we never say that thing becomes invalid, because that's a big statement. So I think it's possible that a person who's at the back and he just joins and he gives salam with the imam, I think he'll get the reward. Allah knows best. Okay, Allah knows best. So let's just get to that point I was mentioning. The next scenario is al-intiqal min infirad ila imam. What does he say? Yeah.
If you allow this, it becomes desirable.
Say again?
If this is allowed,
Yeah.
you should do it.
If it is because it's a jama'ah involved.
Yeah.
Of course.
You should.
Yeah. If it's allowed.
You shouldn't allow this, but it's just.
Yeah. I don't want to. I'm never going to go out and say it's haram to do. I want to look at this and say that it breaks all of the ethics and the other basic rules of the prayer. I wouldn't do it, and I would maintain the position of just. And again, the answer is easier in scenarios and more difficult in others. So for example, if you said that, what's the ruling in this masjid of doing that? I'd say not to do it at all. You get what I'm saying? There's no reason for that to be allowed in a masjid, to be creating that second scenario. Whereas if you said to me, hey, can you give me the academic ruling on this to be applied in any scenario, like in a airport, and so on and so forth, the answer is a big difference, because people are going in with that intention. People are always expecting people to change. I mean, I've seen people do it. In fact, it's mostly the only time you see people kind of change this whole intention. So we want to keep out of certain places and put it into certain places. Yeah? Okay, people's eyes are all going thingy.
So the most
What are you guys doing to me? Are we sucking off now, yeah? People want to early.
There's loads of questions in the thing.
Is there, yeah? Yep. Shahid goes, to be honest. He said something funny, I like that. Maisa says, what is the legal definitions of a sunnah mu'akkada versus a sunnah mustahabba? We did cover that in somewhere. Yep. And that was in the section where we described the difference between sunnah and mustahab. I want to say that Shaykh Uthaymeen said that there's direct evidences to make something to be a sunnah mu'akkad. Direct evidences, whereas mustahab is based upon generalities. But I want you to go and do some research yourself with the notes, okay? If the intention is not spoken aloud, and for example, people meet in a masjid but are not known to one another, and they do not communicate, like they're both strangers to the masjid, and they assume that the other is leading, they sincerely believe they followed, why would that invalidate their salah? It's a good point, isn't it? You get what she's saying? Two people have no idea about the other person, no idea about the identities. they just random meet in a masjid, and they just line up. They don't say anything to each other. No one says anything. And one yani says Allahu Akbar, the other one says Allahu Akbar next to them. They just thought it's the norm. That's, by the way, not so strange what she's saying. When you come into a masjid, you're always assuming certain things. You're assuming a basic level of knowledge because the person's praying in a masjid, and you're looking at the prayer time and you're thinking, well, obviously, yani, what else would I stand next to you for unless you wanted me to lead? Whereas another person, the other one, is completely on a different planet. Like not even thinking at all about leading or this or that, whatever. So why would the prayer be invalidated? Okay, why would the prayer be invalidated? I have to say that I think she has a point.
But it's because the Hanbalis are putting so much.
The Hanbalis yani, are checking out the window, but that's not her point. That's what scenario was that for us?
Maybe number 2.
Both intention to be follower of the other.
Number 2, yeah. They both intend to be imam.
Oh yeah, sorry, 3. But yeah, correct. So they're assuming that the other is leading. Each one of the other is leading.
But somebody has to say Allah Akbar out loud.
Not really.
But then who? If
Remember, every phrase that's said in the salah is to help the other person. By the way.
So who's going to make the first move to go into ruku? Do you know what I mean? Surely the one who thinks that they're leading.
But I mean, obviously, we're talking about a crazy scenario, aren't we? So we just have to guess. We just have to assume that this whole thing's gone belly up from the beginning, and everyone is just waiting on the other, and I don't know, everyone. You just never know.
The one who's joined, he's following, so obviously he's going to do afterwards.
No, this is a scenario where they think they're the imam.
Yeah, so the person comes and joins.
No, they've come out that perfect synergy. They both come and stood next to each other. Packs are like that, by the way. People, not just packs. It's unfair even to. It's even, it's that classic scenario. You've seen that picture. I'm sure you've all seen that picture because it's the so truest and the most irritating picture of all time. Massive empty car park. You park alone. The plum comes and parks right next to you. It happens. Now people do that for a reason. They believe that obviously it's more secure for their car when cars are bunched together. That's the reason they do it, which is super irritating because I intentionally go and find an empty space so I can wide door, no stress, have to breathe in, mission, all the rest of it. Yeah. So I will intentionally park further away as long as I've got wider spaces. Sah? Some plum comes and he parks next to me when he could park anywhere else. That freaks you out. So insan actually has this in their DNA to do this. So why would the Muslims come and randomly in a masjid stand together? You've seen that, by the way. You've definitely seen people come both, yeah. And it could be that they both stand together. One says, you know what, I'll be an imam for you, be an imam for me. They both.
If they come together, they will one will give iqamah, isn't it?
No, iqamah is sunnah, man. It's not obligatory. It's not. No, that's the least of the issues. That's the least of the issues. Yeah.
Sorry, aren't the last 3 situations really valid rather than the last 2? She was mentioning point number 3. I'm saying the last 3 scenarios.
Are valid.
Yeah, because you mentioned the last.
6th is not a position, is it? 6th, the guy is not even praying. Yeah. The 6th is just mentioned as like a hypothetical scenario. That's the one where I said a guy, he doesn't even have a wudu. Yeah. Fuad says, in our hospital scenario, in our hospital prayer room, I should have been looking at the screen more, but you guys, man. Anyway, this scenario took place. I've come in to pray Maghrib. There's no brothers around. So I thought I can't do Jama'ah alone. The sisters at the back then asked me, are you going to do Jama'ah? I didn't know whether or not I'm allowed to be the Imam alone whilst the sisters follow me. In this scenario, is the correct way of going about it. So that's okay. That's permissible, by the way. Just so for the future, a person can lead women and they're at the back and thing. As long as it's not a single woman. If there's a group of women, then they pray behind, man prays behind himself. That's permissible.
So the interesting point with that is that if he didn't know the sisters are there and he's starting,
yes.
Yeah. So that's a good example of him not intending to lead them.
Yes.
And whereas they become
they would hear it and they would think, yeah, and very common as well, by the way, very common.
Yeah, in the like prayer area of our university, the girls' prayer room is completely separate to the boys. So when there's Jamaat going on, they will put the microphone on for the girls not knowing if any girls are actually like that.
Good. That's also a good example. They put the microphone on, like not knowing if there's anyone there. But in the off chance that there is, then join. And in the off chance that someone comes later, then you join. So that person who's leading the prayer is not even having that, yeah, that's good.
If you said as long as there's not one girl, but more than one.
may say it wasn't Anas, it was Abdullah ibn Abbas. We're going to come to that. Yeah, who joined the Prophet ﷺ at night. Yeah.
You said as long as there's not one girl behind you, praying, more than one.
Yeah, because that's khalwa. You shouldn't be in a scenario where there's just two. I'm not talking about wife or mother or anything.
Yeah, but intentionally, right? Like for example, this sister. Let's just give the example of a university, for example. The person
Yeah, if it's separate rooms or separate areas, maybe that's okay. Yeah. Maybe there's some space for that. Dina has gone right off at a right angle. Are vitamins or medicines that come in gelatin capsules permissible to take? Most times, the source of gelatin isn't specified in the box. I'm not very clear on gelatin scenario myself. I used to, for the longest time, think istihala was solid. That the change of state changed it completely. But for the last 1 or 2 years, I've come to understand that actually there's quite a significant remainder of not just genetic material, but maybe even chemical as well. And that the istihala is not complete, and that the gelatin can be traced back, and you are able to see its porcine and bovine and its sources quite clearly. That has put me in doubt on this issue, and so from I don't say it's haram, and I don't say that it's not allowed, and especially where there's a reason such as vitamins and medicines where it's difficult to find an alternative. Not that difficult, you can always get capsules in liquid, but let's say that there is a difficult one, antibiotics for example, which don't come as tablets most of the time, and they are capsule based, they are gelatin based, and there are a number of scholars that say no, there is a complete chemical transformation from the original animal gelatinous cartilage or substance, and now what is used in the capsule is a new chemical product entirely. In fact, I would probably even say the majority of modern day scholars believe that opinion. So because of that, I'm never going to say it's haram. But do I take it myself? I avoid it. Unless it's medication which can't be avoided. But, all the yogurts and ice creams and all the rest of it, I've changed my position. I don't take gelatin in that unless it's vegetarian based or fish based. Because you can get fish based gelatin as well.
Assisted.
Istihala is the change of state.
Yeah, assisted one or natural one?
Assisted, it's irrelevant, whether assisted or natural. The point is that I just have got my doubts, and the only way I'm going to get rid of my doubts is not to. I don't listen to people anyway. I'd have to do my own study and check and go back to it at the chemical level. That's going to take some time. I ain't got the time at the moment. So until I confirm that, I stay away from it. But I don't tell other people it's haram. Yeah. Okay, that's answered. Answered, bro. Go up. Said it's answered. Someone said it's answered. Could he just pray 4, then wait and sit? And wait until they are done their 4 and do taslim together. I mean, that's the kind of scenarios you're creating, you see? When you're just, you pray your 4 and intend that you're actually in it, but you're not in it. Oh, it's all messy. Yeah? Yeah, done that?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, Rehan said, I think it's the first one. Yep, I agree. So we've established that. And Asiya says, what would happen if you prayed the entire prayer except for the final turning of the head? Would you need to choose whether you lose that prayer at the beginning again or lose the act of being in congregation? Yeah, you'd make that choice, but I wouldn't worry about that.
Except for the what, sorry?
You lose the prayer entirely. You just give salam yourself to get out of the, or would you wait? Her point is that imagine you're by yourself and you've prayed the whole prayer and you've seen them start. Should you just sit there and wait for them, or you just walk off? I'm saying, me personally, I would give salam and walk off.
You can pray with them as a sunnah anyway, can't you?
What would that make your prayer then?
Your last one is your fard, and then you pray with them as enough.
You mean you'd pray and then join them again?
Join them and not join be enough.
No, join them again, meaning you'd finish your own. Yeah, of course. Of course, no doubt about that. If you completed your prayer and then joined them, that's that's even more better than what I said.
Why would you ever ruin your own prayer?
Yeah, correct. That's what I would look at it as. I would want to continue my prayer and either go, or if I'm feeling generous like you, then, pick up a second one. What Shahid said, I just got to say what Shahid said because it really made me laugh. He goes, I concur, both scenarios are all convoluted. If I saw that, I just think someone was doing some Shia behavior if I didn't.
Look at the ground with stone.
It's true though, you'd be thinking, what, this is some dodgy behavior going on. This is like, and it does exist out there, you know what I'm saying? It is not accepted to have a long pause calling the adhan, so it makes sense to not have an extended pause in salah. Good, correct. And danger too mentally as well. That is correct. Why wouldn't the guy who had done 2 rak'ah and hasn't come up yet, then sees the jama'ah starting, just end his prayer there, consider it a nafil, and then start with them in the jama'ah, which is what you said. And that's what they should do. That's what we said 2 weeks ago. Remember? That's what we said 2 weeks ago. He cuts it at 2 because he had the intention of 4. makes it a nafil and join. But this is a scenario where he doesn't want to cut and he wants to try and convert. All right. This is, as Shaykh Uthaymeen said, we are now in the subsection of converting. We are in the convert. If you look in English, you see convert, convert, convert. We are in the subsection of converting one's niyyah. When is that acceptable and when not acceptable?
The difference here is that was you prayed your fard and then joined for a nafil. I think she's saying that you then change your attention to a nafil and then join them for the fard.
No, that's Mace is saying you had fard, you're praying fard, you changed intention to a nafil, cut out, joined the fard. What we said a couple of weeks ago, exactly the same. Hamza then says, what is a man meant to do while sitting waiting for the others to catch up in prayer? Is he just meant to stay silent? Won't that affect khushu'? And this is a very important, we'll end with this one. And that is that never is silence better than dhikr in the salah. And silence is very common in the prayer. Like the imam is still reciting and the imam is tashahhud is super long. Or you finish and then you're waiting for him to give taslim and you don't know what's going on. You never sit there silently. You make dua, you say adhkar, you keep to the jins, the genre of adhkar that fit in the prayer. Quran, dua that you know, especially if it's a place of dua, like sajda or at the end of the prayer, where you're meant to make lots of dua anyway. You run out, repeat your duas, but you don't stay silent. So in this scenario, when you're sitting waiting for the imam to catch you up, you would repeat thingy. There were some one or two questions here that were just, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, so the motivation for, maybe pausing, it's not obligation, it's reward, right? That's your motivation.
Yeah.
So, say for example, you wanted to pray in Jama'ah.
Yep.
You started and then somebody came.
Yep.
You would, in theory, get the intention for it.
That's what Shaykh Uthaymeen, mentioned at the end, and I agree. I think that you'd get that. Yep.
Sheikh, with regards to what we started the class with, you said about the intention of the imam being an imam and the jama'ah itself.
Yes.
So what was the class position on that?
That it is not a condition.
So because if we
No, the class position is that there are scenarios where it is important, other scenarios where it doesn't affect. Some scenarios, and if a person doesn't have the intention in a correct place, then it invalidates the prayer.
So the definition of the niyyah you mentioned a few weeks before is the determination. It's an act of worship.
Yep.
Determination for act of worship to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes.
So that determination, that will, the person is standing there, is automatically there for being an imam. Or the salah.
When he started and he wasn't?
No. When he wants to be an imam, he don't need to have a separate intention for the being an imam.
So you're now not talking about this at all. You're talking about someone who's got an intention from the beginning.
Yes, from the beginning.
And you're saying that he's the imam.
Yeah, because in the
You're saying, what you're trying to say is that, what is this person's intention anyway if it's not an intention to be an imam?
Yes.
The argument would be, is that a second intention? Is that part of the first one? Is it, I think it's a second intention.
It's automatically how to.
Or rather, as Shaykh Uthaymeen says, I think it's an expression of the fundamental intention. The fundamental intention is to pray dhuhr.
Yes.
The expression of that is that it is going to be as an imam or as a follower.
But that would be
Both of these, by the way, are rewarded equally. Theoretically, 27 times reward his increases, 27 times the one who follows. Yeah? Every other reward is not, as far as I know, Allah knows best. Every other reward would be more general as opposed to a specific hadith. Meaning that the imams are generally seen as a higher class of people, the people respect them more, people will rate them more. It's a more general kind of reward, more social reward as opposed to like a formal reward of Allah, specifically. But I could be wrong there. That's a judgment call, Allah alam, yeah.
It's not course related, it's a basically a couple of days ago, organ donation became compulsory.
Opt in.
Yeah, you have to opt out now.
Is it England?
Yeah.
Sorry, opt out.
Yeah, you have to opt out now.
In England?
Yeah.
Are you sure? It's not. It was in Wales and always has been in Wales.
What's the Islamic ruling on it?
Yeah. I personally think that people should opt out until it becomes absolutely clear. Two ways: one, Islamically, and two, for them to make all their mistakes and get it out of the system. Just like why you wouldn't get the new iPhone immediately, you'd wait for it to have firmware done a couple of times up, or any model of a car, or just common sense. No one gets Windows 10 or 7 immediately. They wait for the beta version or the whatever the version is. Yeah. Likewise, there's going to be a lot of problems with this. This is great in theory, okay, but there's a massive difference between being opt-in and opt-out. Everyone is now game to open up. Where are they going to store everything? Where's the infrastructure? Where's the people? Where's the training? Where's the education? So there's going to be mistakes made. And if we allow it Islamically, which is the primary problem, I'm actually talking about the second problem. I'm talking about the infrastructure. If we were to get past the first one, which is to have consensus that it is allowed, right? Which is the primary issue. And I want to say to you that there's difference of opinion, and it's a massive area, because organ donation happens during life, post-life, death, okay? And it happens to Muslim and non-Muslim. It happens to dependents, non-dependents. It happens with an organ that is essential and that which is non-essential. It happens to an organ that affects life, doesn't affect life. The difference between giving a blood and giving an eye. The difference between giving a lung, giving a kidney. The difference between giving your liver and then having nothing left. Yeah. So there's all of these have a separate ruling. And that's before life, and then apply all of those after life. And then apply all of those before life, after life to the person who's a recipient, whether they're family or friend. And then apply all of that to whether the person's a Muslim. So you have individual 30, 40 different individual rulings that need to be given. And some scholars have given their rulings, and the fiqh bodies as well. In my heart of hearts, I support the idea, and I think it's permissible fundamentally for virtually all of it. Yeah? For virtually all of them. Because of the need, because of the science, whatever. But I have to say to you that my critical self, my more cynical self, likes the idea that you let people die if their time's to die. But that's a bit weird.
Because isn't that
Well, you know what it is? A lot of people, it's not politically correct, is it?
Yeah.
What's the difference between that and euthanasia nowadays? It's like super really wrong. We're now living in an ultra-liberal time where that would be... And I mean, look at it, Miskina, this previous Canadian Miskina, yes? Right? President or whatever she was, or Prime Minister. She said today that... she said such an amazing statement. She said, I can't understand how women who sit in like a bra or in a t-shirt with their arms showing, reading the news, can be taken seriously. They're sitting next to a person who's a guy who's not just shirt, but suited, tied, everything. And the girls, they're sitting in a dress. And she said that when a woman exposes her arms, she wants people to focus on her skin. That wasn't her words. Her words were like, if a person exposes their skin, surely they know that people are going to focus on the skin. Whereas when you focus on the guy, you don't focus on his clothes because there's no skin to focus on, so you listen to the message. So her words were that how can women newsreaders expect to be taken seriously or seen as intellectual if they expose so much skin? She's being ripped apart, bro. Ripped apart. Now, obviously, if a Muslim had said that, it would be ripped apart and jail. You know what I'm saying? But she's not being threatened with jail or illegal, but she's being destroyed by the liberals. All right? Now, that's the kind of mentality we're living in. It's the most common sense thing ever, in human history ever. The people who designed the bloody dresses have said that that's the reason they flip and put people in dresses, so people can focus on that, right? And increase sex appeal and blah, blah, blah. So it's just nonsensical, what a stupid world we live in at the moment. So in such an environment, okay, having opinions that medicine is not obligatory, turn off the life support machine, don't worry about ventilation, the ventilator, which is all my opinion. I don't think medicine is obligatory. I think people should be allowed to die. I think there's far too many people in the world anyway. I think it's good that we have things. Absolutely, 100%. A person's he's fine, he's got a hole in the heart. It's his time to go. Not bloody go around everywhere, look for a heart. Bloody, spend 20 years looking for a heart at £1 million cost. We do the transplant, the guy, and he's drunk when he's doing it, and he cuts it and he dies anyway. Sah? Yeah? Or kidney this, that, whatever, blah, blah. I mean, the whole thing's out of control. I'm just saying, so that's my personal position. I don't want to apply that onto the fiqh. The fiqh of it is that some people did say that medicine is obligatory. If there is a good chance, you should take by all the reasons. If there is a chance of saving a person, then we should, blah, blah, blah. So, okay. But it's, against it is the physical use on the body. Most of them say the hadith of mutilation makes it clear you're not allowed to touch it. We'll say, no, this is not mutilation. Mutilation is an intention and a desire to humiliate and a desire to score points. Whereas never has anyone, when they're doing organ transplantation, ever had that intention. Scalpel use, very specific, very minimal, etc., etc., etc. But for people who are in the business, we know that if everyone's all opt out and you've got loads of options and people are probably not being as careful as they were when it was opt in, right? I'd put that theory out there. If you're a surgeon who's doing all these kind of actions, whatever, and you've got endless supply versus when you've only got your one chance with this guy.
You know, I want it to develop. I want it to, you know, I want people to get used to getting mistakes out, get some ethics, get the code, get, you know, all that going solid before we dive in. So it's not so much about the halal haram. I think that Muslims definitely need to opt out. Okay, even though I think in essence it's permissible. We need to allow it to get to, you know, a proper safe position. All right, folks. Congratulations, Ajmal. Jazakallah khair. Thanks from myself and from my wife and from my kids that you have extended my life. That I'm not going to become 100 kilos in the next thingy. No more food, I repeat. No chocolates, no sweets, no celebrations, nothing. Nothing. They're banned.
What, fruit?
Not fruit. Fruit's full of sugar. Is that? No ajwa, nothing. Take your ajwa, enjoy it. No temptations.
Tuna and chicken.
Definitely no Tim Hortons. Poor quality Tim Hortons. No coffee. Hot chocolate maybe on the odd day. Nothing. No hints. Nothing. جزاكم الله خير سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك اللهم وأتوب إليك. Thank you very much.